Tonight's commentary is on a small commentator named aVa. Specifically, her video, Dylan Mulvaney is a mockery of trans women. Also, I'm skipping the first 37 seconds because it's nothing more than an introduction that doesn't add anything to the commentary.
So Dylan Mulvaney is a transgender TikToker with almost 11 million followers who got huge on her Days of Girlhood transition series on TikTok, which has been going on for the past, year, but is a bit questionable on the types of content she makes, apart from the obvious that you're a 26-year-old calling yourself a girl.
What's the issue with that exactly? You don't explain the slightest, you just say it and expect the audience to understand your problem, and I'm going to be blunt, I really don't right off the bat.
Very first video is literally stereotyping women.
Day one of being a girl, and I have already cried 3 times. I wrote a scathing email that I did not send. I ordered dresses online that I couldn't afford. And then when someone asked me how I was, I said, I'm fine, when I wasn't fine.
Yes, the 3 genders. Overly emotional, financially irresponsible, and emotional manipulation.
What the fuck was manipulative about how Dylan acted in that clip? I assume you're referring to the last part where she says that she said she was fine when someone asked even though she wasn't. But that's not manipulative. I don't see how you would come to that conclusion. Who is she trying to manipulate there? Herself?
And this overgeneralization of what being a woman is like is a common theme in what Dylan does.
You do know that was a comedy video, right? I won't disagree that those were generalizations on Dylan's part, however, those were for the sake of humor, so I really don't see the issue here. You're treating this like it's much more serious than it actually is right off the bat. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have issue with the comedy, that's perfectly fine. However, again, my issue with you is less that you don't find it funny, and more that you don't even seem to understand it's supposed to be humor.
How'd I do, ladies? Good?
How'd I do, ladies? But this time, I'm gonna try not to be super hard about the generalization, because I feel like a lot of trans people, especially ones who never got to live as their experienced sex before transitioning, don't really know the ins and outs of being the opposite sex yet, so obviously you're not going to be perfect right off the bat.
I'm sorry, what the fuck would be the perfect way of living as the opposite sex? What the fuck would be the perfect way of living as the same sex, for that matter? I find this point especially odd because you just got on to Dylan Mulvaney for generalizing womanhood for the sake of a comedy video, but now you're saying there's some perfect way to live as the opposite sex, which Dylan is failing to live up to, that inherently implies some amount of generalization. After all, how would you measure the perfect way to live as the opposite sex if you didn't first generalize that experience and compare and contrast it to how others are behaving?
I had tons to learn about assimilation as a woman.
But remember, if you attempt to assimilate to a hyperbolic extreme for the sake of comedy in a TikTok video, aVa is going to take issue with that. Assimilate, but not too much.
Day 3 of being a girl, and I've already become a bimbo.
I have to censor this because I got a channel strike warning for showing Dylan in a bikini in a different video, but here's where I start to go from side-eye to full-on blank stare. If you aren't familiar with this video, it's day 3 of girlhood. Dylan is wearing a tiny bikini and a thong, and slay body confidence girly pop, but as a trans woman, wearing something like this that accentuates and highlights your masculine body features, and not even tucking, would, at least for me, cut the day short, and I'd go home and start incel bone smashing to look smacks my lack of body shape away, and then grab for the nearest pair of scissors.
Okay, well, I guess Dylan experiences dysphoria differently from how you do. What the fuck is your point exactly?
I'm getting secondhand dysphoria from this. And yet you're posting it online to millions.
You're posting it online despite the fact it makes me uncomfortable? Oh no!
75 of being a girl, and I've been carrying around tampons and pads for the past 2 months, but I've actually never opened one up, so let's do it! Woohoo!
I will never understand why these trans women put such a big emphasis and are so interested in menstrual products.
As seen by Dylan offhandedly mentioning she's carried them around, I assume in case somebody else asks her for one. And by the way, I've talked to cisgender women who have told me that's actually a pretty common occurrence. And dedicating a single 2-minute video to opening one up. You and I appear to have rather different definitions of emphasis and interest.
We don't have that kind of anatomy. This stuff isn't for us.
Also,
why are you like so excited to open a tampon? It's not that exciting. Especially for the women who would need to use it.
I assume Dylan's just acting upbeat for the camera. Looking at what you've shown us so far, that seems to be a pretty common pattern in what she makes. Yeah, most of this video is just aVa acting aghast that Dylan would dare do things like have fun on camera, be silly, and be comfortable in her own body. How dare she? Most of it is not very interesting, but there are 2 more parts I want to mention real quick.
And this is my problem with Dylan. I just don't believe she represents trans people very accurately or in a way at all that shows the general public that, hey, these trans people aren't so bad. These are just normal people. For whatever reason, the media is pushing Dylan so hard. I don't know if it's because they know Dylan is making trans people look bad, or if the narrative has become so corrupted that people don't even know people like me exist, and they genuinely believe Dylan best represents what a trans person is and doesn't see anything wrong with what she does.
So I'll ignore the implication that Dylan apparently signed up to be the personal PR manager for all trans people. Seriously, she's not trying to represent all trans people, she's just trying to represent herself. And instead, I'll just point out that Dylan has nearly 11 million TikTok followers compared to your about 400 YouTube subscribers. So yeah, people not knowing trans people like you, whatever that would mean in this context, exist is actually kind of likely.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Alright, I'll let the damn video play. But like, why Dylan? I don't know, find someone who's on like day 40,000 of transition.
Yeah, I know. Why didn't the president talk to someone who's on year 109 of their transition? Seriously, that's how long 40,000 days would be. Good night and good luck.